Tonight on Reporting Scotland, patients given infected blood say they might die before getting compensation. It's a year since an inquiry published its final report, but thousands are still waiting for payments.
Last year there was a sense of vindication, I think a sense of relief. A year on, there's complete and utter frustration and indeed anger and despair.
Also on tonight's programme, putting the mobiles away.
Good girl, lock it over please, and upside down. Well done.
We hear from the school in Edinburgh where pupils now have to put their phones in lockable pouches when in school. The UK's largest oil and gas producer has said it expects to cut a further 250 jobs in Aberdeen. And on the eve of VE Day, we look at the remarkable legacy of a mum who lost her 3 sons in World War II.
And coming up in tonight's sport, it's no surprise that Derek McInnes is linked with the Hearts manager's job, according to his Kilmarnock assistant Paul Sheeran.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. A year ago, a public inquiry into what's been called the worst treatment disaster in the history of the NHS published its final report. It should have set in motion compensation payments for the thousands of people who were infected with hepatitis C or HIV through no fault of their own. Instead, many victims have found themselves back at the blood inquiry, telling of their despair over what they see as the UK government's lack of progress and transparency with payments. Our health correspondent Lisa Summers reports from the hearings in London.
There is no desire to be here, but many Scottish victims came to London today, angry that access to compensation payments is taking so long.
This hearing of the inquiry is...
The inquiry chair took the unusual step of reopening hearings amidst the level of concerns.
It is no secret that the inquiry has received letter after letter, email after email, call after call, expressing worries and concerns about how compensation is being delivered.
May last year, and the victims at the heart of the scandal thought they were at the end of an exhausting fight for justice. The inquiry found patients had been exposed to avoidable risks, with authorities deliberately trying to cover it up. Fast forward 12 months, and that sense of elation is gone.
A year's a problem because people are dying. People have become much more ill. Last year there was a sense of vindication, I think a sense of relief. A year on, there's complete and utter frustration and indeed anger and despair.
Bill Wright was infected in 1986. He now has developed liver cancer.
So not only do we face this situation where we don't trust government, but government has clearly indicated it doesn't trust us.
In the 1970s and 80s, around 3,000 patients in Scotland were infected with HIV or hepatitis C through blood transfusions or treatment for haemophilia on the NHS. Many died. Others have lived with stigma and chronic illnesses. Jill Fife became infected after a transfusion during childbirth. Forced to give up a teaching career, she says it's taken its toll on her whole family.
If you damage someone's life, that has to be compensated for. Not in order, not really just because they're sick, although that has been the consequence of this scandal, but because you stop them having their life and stop them being able to earn any money and stop them being able to invest in their future.
It is an extraordinary move for a public inquiry to reconvene after its final report has been published, but the chair says that reflects the gravity of concerns that victims have come to him with. We will also hear from government officials as the inquiry continues to hear evidence today and tomorrow.
I swear by Almighty God.
The first of those was the Cabinet Office Minister.
I would like to acknowledge that the government has failed you over decades. On behalf of the state, I am sorry.
The UK government says billions of pounds have been set aside for compensation, but only around 100 payments have been made so far, leaving many affected by this NHS disaster feeling they're being disregarded once again. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland, Central London.
It is an ongoing debate. Should smartphones be allowed at school? And if not, how do you manage that? Well, pupils at 2 high schools in Edinburgh will have to keep their mobiles in lockable pouches during the day under a new phone-free policy. Students at Portobello High School and Queensferry High School are being issued with special wallets which, once sealed, require a magnetic pad to unlock them. Joanne Macaulay reports.
The start of the day at Portobello High School now means phones away.
Good girl, lock it over please, and upside down.
The devices have to go into a lockable pouch and then school bags, preventing access to mobiles during lessons.
Ultimately, we want to ensure that learning is distraction-free. We felt that just leaving the phone in the bag perhaps wasn't enough for us. We wanted to go that step further, and for us the pouch was the very straightforward solution to that particular problem.
The school has unlocking stations for the devices at the end of the day or if the pupils are going out at lunchtime. The scheme is being brought in after consultation with staff, parents and the students.
It'll come with some struggles at the start and it'll take a while to get used to, but I think the outcome will be really good.
It's quite a big change for me, but I do understand why the school have done it and I hope it will help our education.
There definitely will be some changes that we'll have to get used to, but I think in the long run it'll be a good idea.
Morning everybody, welcome to your first lesson today without your phones, so hopefully they will not be a distraction, and let's get started.
The pupils can keep their phones on them, but the aim is to remove the temptation and the ability to look at them. Most schools already have some sort of restriction on mobile phone use in the classroom, but this is the first in Scotland to use this type of technology. And other councils and schools across the country are consulting on and reviewing their mobile phone policies. Next week, Queensferry High School will start the same system as Portobello.
Like anything, there are going to be some people who don't think this is a good idea. There are going to be some who find workarounds. But I think the idea behind bedding this in and working on it as an ongoing piece is that the support for it is coming at all levels, on a peer-to-peer level. So within the pupils themselves, having conversations and dialogue around this.
Last year, the Scottish Government gave head teachers the power to decide what they wanted to do in their schools regarding mobile phones. Many of them will be interested to see how Portobello and Queensferry get on with this approach. Joanne Macaulay reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Well, they're talking more about this story over on the News at 7 on the BBC Scotland channel shortly with Laura McKeever. Laura, it's a bit of an issue of our times, this. Who are you hearing from?
It really is. It's a talking point, isn't it? So we'll be hearing from a campaigner who is absolutely welcoming this move. Also tonight, Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce giving us reaction to the loss of 250 more oil and gas jobs in the city. And finally tonight, we're going to Orkney to meet an AI Viking. The first of its kind, we think. So all will be revealed at 7, Laura, on BBC Scotland and iPlayer.
Bit of everything as usual. Thank you, Laura. Well, let's talk about that story Laura mentioned there. And a major oil and gas company is set to cut 250 jobs in Aberdeen. McRobert Energy says it's necessary to reduce staffing levels to align with lower levels of investment, blaming UK government regulation. The UK government says its thoughts are with any workers affected. Ben Phillip reports.
The fortunes of oil and gas companies have flowed in and out of Aberdeen for decades. A relatively new player on the scene is McRobert Energy, now the UK's largest oil and gas producer. 2 years ago, it made 350 onshore jobs in the UK redundant. Today, it announced 250 more in Aberdeen.
The majority of McRobert Energy's onshore workforce are based here in this office in Aberdeen. We understand these 250 job cuts is around a quarter of the total workforce based here in the city.
McRobert Energy says it's had to take difficult steps, blaming regulation and punitive UK government measures. It's previously been a vocal critic of the Energy Profits Levy, or windfall tax. The issue was raised during today's Prime Minister's questions.
Can I invite the Prime Minister to come to Aberdeen and explain to my constituents why he is willing to move heaven and earth to save jobs in Scunthorpe while destroying jobs in Scotland?
Mr. Speaker, nobody wants to see job losses, but I'd remind the right honourable member that before we came into office 10 months ago, the SNP government in Holyrood, alongside the Conservative government, did absolutely nothing for projects like Granite. Absolutely nothing.
An Aberdeen business group has described the job losses as a devastating blow.
We warned
that the policies of the UK government, if Labour were to win the election, were going to cost jobs in the North Sea. We were gaslit and told that no jobs would be lost. Well, here we are talking about 250 in just one day and 10,000 since the introduction of the Energy Profits Levy. It cannot be allowed to continue, and we need the Energy Profits Levy to be removed now.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves said today North Sea oil and gas companies are taxed at the same rate as in Norway, pointing out that companies there aren't making layoffs. Environmental groups argue there should be more focus on expanding renewable energy.
Scotland in particular could benefit from long-term prosperity and jobs in the communities that need it most, in the northeast of Scotland, for example, because of the huge amount of demand and potential for renewable energy generation there.
Staff at Harbour Energy will now be consulted on the job cuts over the coming months. Ben Phillip, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
To some of the day's other stories now. And a man's been charged with attempted murder in connection with 2 deliberate fires in Edinburgh, thought to be linked to an ongoing gangland feud. Curtis Young made no plea to charges of willful fire-raising, danger to life and attempted murder on separate occasions in March and April, following incidents on Hay Drive in Niddrie. The West Lothian Council says there's no evidence that any personal or sensitive data has been compromised in a ransomware cyber attack. The local authority is continuing to deal with a targeted attack on its education network, which started yesterday. Police Scotland has launched a criminal investigation and the local authority is working to restore systems affected. All schools in the area remain open and all planned SQA exams are to go ahead as expected. The Chancellor has told the BBC there will be no changes to the decision to scrap universal winter fuel payments, despite calls from her own MPs to rethink the policy. Rachel Reeves made the comments during a visit to Scotland as the main Holyrood parties marked a year to go until the Scottish Parliament elections. Our political correspondent Lindsay Bewes reports.
The Chancellor trumpeting a new trade deal with India.
This is the moment where the duty becomes payable.
She says it'll make it easier to export products, like the whisky produced at this distillery near Edinburgh. But she's also being urged to make life easier at home by reversing decisions like cutting winter fuel payments.
That policy stands, but I do get people's concerns about the cost of living, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
At this lunch club in Glasgow, there were mixed views on the decision to axe universal fuel payments.
Definitely wasn't fair, like giving it just to some folk. I think everybody should have got it.
It needs to be targeted because there were a lot of people getting the payments that probably really, if they were honest, didn't really need to get it.
I don't know who to trust anymore. I really don't. And there's a lot of people like me. We don't know who to trust anymore.
Introducing his Holyrood candidates in Edinburgh, the First Minister told supporters Labour's decisions would be judged at the ballot box alongside his own.
When the people of Scotland choose their next government, we will earn their trust by showing them a record of delivery. In that election, Labour will be standing on their record too. And don't worry, I'll make sure about that.
In Glasgow, the Scottish Labour leader dismissed suggestions the Prime Minister has made his own pitch for power more difficult.
Next year it's a straight choice. John Swinney or me, the SNP or Scottish Labour, the NHS in decline with them or fixed with Labour, our education standards in decline with them or a new direction for our young people with me. That's the choice, that's the frame of the election next year. And we're going to go out and win that election for the people of Scotland.
So the race is on between the SNP and Labour, but winning a majority here at Holyrood is hard to do, and who takes power could well be determined by other parties. And there's a new unknown quantity entering the stage, Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage. His party are a threat to the Scottish Conservatives, and at an event in Edinburgh, their leader suggested Reform could help the SNP back into office.
Stronger Reform is good for the SNP. A vote for Reform is a vote for the SNP. Nigel Farage and John Swinney have a mutual interest in promoting each other.
Looking to cool down talk of Reform's election hopes, the Scottish Lib Dems believe they could also capitalise on voter apathy with the main parties.
They're looking for something new, I understand that, but I am here to say, we are just as capable of making advances in this election as anybody else.
There's still 12 months to go before the public go to the polls. The long campaign to win votes has already begun. Lindsay Bewes reporting Scotland.
Well, let's get the thoughts now of our political editor, Glenn Campbell, who's at Holyrood for us tonight. Glenn, and as Lindsay was saying there, reform really are the unknown element in these elections.
I think this is going to be a really competitive election because it's not just about the 5 parties that won seats here last time, and they of course include the Scottish Greens, who'll be campaigning hard on climate issues, and then there's Alba, who will be pushing the case for Scottish independence. But there's also this unknown factor, this phenomenon that is Reform UK, a party without a Scottish leader, without a detailed policy platform, and without an organisational structure in Scotland. Yet they claim to have more than 10,000 members and are persistently polling at levels that suggest they could well be on course to win seats here at Holyrood. And that's got other parties worried, particularly the Conservatives and Labour, who feel that they could be squeezed by Nigel Farage's party. Polls are one thing, of course. Do they translate into votes? Well, we'll see that in May next year. But there is an earlier electoral test which will start to give us some indications. The Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election, which is due to take place on June the 5th.
Yeah, indeed, not long till that. Can I just pick up on Labour there? And what do you make of the tension within the Labour Party between the Scottish Party in election mode and the Labour government at Westminster?
Well, it's real. There was no public disagreement between the Chancellor and the Scottish Labour leader today. But the truth is, Scottish Labour don't want to talk about Sir Keir Starmer and his government because they believe that some of the welfare decisions the UK government has made are harming their chances in the Holyrood election just 1 year away. Labour here at Holyrood worry that if that contest becomes a referendum on Labour in government at UK level, they could be in trouble. Instead, they want it to be a referendum on what will by then be 19 years of SNP administration here in Scotland, and they think that will put them on stronger ground, albeit that the SNP and John Swinney are happy to defend their record.
Well, there is, as we said, a year to go. Thank you very much, Glenn Campbell. Tonight's main news again. Thousands of people given infected blood are still waiting for compensation payments, a year since the public inquiry published its final report on the scandal.
And still to come in sport, the British and Irish Lions squad is announced tomorrow. Which of these Scotland players will make the cut for the Tour of Australia?
The Second World War had tragic consequences for so many families. By 1941, Lady Rachel McRobert from Aberdeenshire had endured the loss of all 3 of her sons. 2 were killed in action while flying with the Royal Air Force. 80 years on from victory in Europe, our reporter Rachel Bell has been hearing how her remarkable response to their deaths have left a lasting legacy even to this day.
This is the McRobert fighter, named after brothers who died while flying and whose mother continued their fight. Lady Rachel McRobert lived on the Doonside estate in Aberdeenshire with her 3 sons. Shortly before the war, her eldest, Alistair, died in a flying accident. Roderick was killed in action over Iraq in 1941. Fellow RAF pilot Ian died 6 weeks later. Lady McRobert responded by donating £25,000 for a bomber to be called McRobert's Reply.
A bereaved British mother's answer to Hitler. Lady McRobert, the widow of Doonside, Aberdeenshire, avenges the loss of her 3 sons by buying a Sterling bomber to make raids on Germany.
The grief she must have felt would be unimaginable, but actually only a couple of weeks after she learned of Sir Ian's death, she wrote the letter to the Secretary of State for Air. And in the letter she wrote, "I have no more sons to wear the badge or carry on the fight, but if I had 10 sons, I know they would all have followed that line of duty."
A year later, Lady McRobert also donated £20,000 for 4 Hurricane fighters, named after herself and her 3 sons.
It is now that we see the names of the 3 brave knights emblazoned on the machines, given in perpetuation of their memory.
It became incredibly well known at the time. I think she felt the call of duty in her own way. She did what she could do and had the means to do, and I think it's an incredible legacy that she's left.
You're taking off now!
Lady McRobert started a tradition which the RAF has kept alive for 80 years. Numerous aircraft have carried the McRobert name, including this Typhoon jet based here at RAF Lossiemouth.
It's definitely still a source of inspiration. You need to know, to do the job you're doing, you need to understand what your predecessors have done. Lady McRobert did what anyone who could afford at the time to do would have done. It's like, here's my gesture to support the war effort. So for those receiving that, it's just endorsement that the UK public are right behind you and willing you to do what's required.
When Lady McRobert died in 1954, there was an RAF flypast over her home at Doonside. 80 years on from VE Day, this aircraft is a reminder of the sacrifices made for victory and a mother's courageous call to carry on. Rachel Bell, reporting Scotland.
Yeah, remarkable story. OK, Sheila has the sport. Hi.
Hi, Laura. Good evening. The Kilmarnock assistant manager Paul Sheeran says it's absolutely no surprise about speculation linking Derek McInnes to the vacant head coach position at Hearts. McInnes has been in charge at Rugby Park since 2022, guiding them back into the top flight and European football. This season has been challenging, but after 3 wins from their last 4 games, he hopes to guarantee Killy's premiership safety by beating Dundee on Saturday. Sheeran's been a regular feature in McInnes' backroom teams over the years.
He plays his cards close to his chest, so in terms of, from my point of view, working with him over the years, you're spot on. There has been that speculation and it doesn't go away, and there's a reason for that, because he does his job so well, and the job he done up in Aberdeen and clubs similar stature, I'd say Aberdeen and Hearts, it doesn't surprise me that he's linked to it again, not at all.
You said that Derek plays his cards close to his chest, but given that you've been with him at Aberdeen and you've been with him here, a potential move for him could potentially be a move for you as well. So I imagine at some point you guys will be having a little bit of discussion if he does have news to share.
Well, I'm sure he will, and whether that entails me, any of the other staff or not, I don't know. I honestly don't know on that, and would cross that bridge when it came to it.
Rangers' largest shareholder, Dave King, says there's a 90% probability that a takeover of the club by an American consortium will be concluded, and he expects the deal to be rubber-stamped by the middle of June. A group backed by the San Francisco 49ers are in advanced talks about gaining a majority stake at Ibrox, and King, a former Rangers chairman, says the expected new owners, led by businessmen Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marat, are the real deal, who will invest significantly over the coming years. The Ross County manager, Don Cowie, has told his players to forget about their miserable form and reminded them that Premiership survival is in their own hands. Cowie suffered yet another defeat at home to Hearts that kept them in 11th spot in the division, and if they're still there at the end of the season, they'll face a playoff with a Championship side to maintain their top flight status. There's no glossing defeats and no goals scored in 4 of those games. They play their biggest game of the season against bottom place St Johnstone this weekend. A county win will relegate the Perth side, but defeat would cut the gap at the foot to 3 points with 2 games left to play.
What we've got to recognise is we can't change the last few weeks. We're really disappointed in terms of the results that we've had in that period of time, but it's up to us to change it. It's still in our hands. We've got a huge week coming up. We know what's at stake at the end of that week, and it starts, like you say, at St Johnstone Saturday, which is the biggest game of them all.
Now to rugby, and it could be a sleepless night for a few Scotland players as they await tomorrow's squad announcement for the British and Irish Lions summer tour of Australia. Despite recent injuries, Duhan van der Merwe and Sione Chopolotu are expected to make it, as is Finn Russell. Lions head coach Andy Farrell will name around 40 players, with a test in Dublin against Argentina preceding the trip down under. But how many Scots will be on the flight?
I think if we can get 6 or 7 backs in that squad, I think that's about right, and I think that'd be fair when you look back at how the guys have played this year. And I think in the forwards, I think Xander Fagerson at tight prop. And I think Jamie Ritchie's got a great chance.
And that's all your sport this evening.
Good. Thank you, Sheila. Judith is here. How's it looking? We're looking good, are we?
Yeah, it is. And actually, there's no rain for the next, well, I say 10 days as things stand. No real rain. So that's one to bear in mind, I guess, if you're a gardener or a grower.
Yeah,
and some
absolutely.
frost by night as well. Thank you very much, Laura. But nowhere like Scotland when we have sunshine. Look at that glorious picture there behind me. And it's all because we have this really strong area of high pressure slap bang across us at the moment. And it's going nowhere fast. There might be a wee bit of rain. There's a wee bit of doubt for Friday night and entirely Saturday with a weak weather front. But that could not even happen, actually. The high staying with us right through the end of the week into next week as well. So as far as tonight's concerned, spells of late sunshine leading to clear spells as we head through the overnight period, and maybe the odd mist patch in the glens, but that's about it. It will be cold enough for a wee touch of frost through some sheltered spots as well in the borders and across eastern Scotland. For most of us, 4 or 5 Celsius. So into tomorrow, any early mist will very quickly shift and it will be quite a cool, fresh start to the day, but dry with spells of sunshine, but cloud will bubble up. Now, it's difficult to know where the cloud will be, so I won't be too clever about it, but it looks like it should brighten up across Shetland after a cloudy start. Some sunny spells coming through here with light southwesterly winds, and Orkney as well, seeing sunny spells. And it looks like being a fine day for eastern Scotland. Still a bit of east in the wind, leading to onshore breezes for the east coast, keeping things cooler. But actually, you don't have to come too far inland, and looking at highs of 16 Celsius. In the west, the highest values, though, 19 for the likes of Glasgow down towards the southwest, the West Highlands. We could even see a spot 20 around about the Great Glen area. So bright with sunny spells, a bit of afternoon cloud building up, but that's about it. But it will be, to all intents and purposes, a lovely day. Now, as we head into tomorrow evening, the cloud tends to melt away, late sunshine, then clear spells once again overnight. Now, the winds veer into the south, so that means warmer air will waft up right across the country. So the warmest day of the week will be a lovely day on Friday, not so much cloud either. We could see 21 Celsius for the parts of the northeast. It's been quite chilly here, but so warm widely on Friday. And then lots of sunshine symbols for the weekend as well, and temperatures looking pretty good considering it's still spring. That's your forecast.
That'll do. Thank you, Judith. And that is Reporting Scotland. The late news is at 10:30. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.